William Tyndale, one of the most significant figures in the history of the English Bible. Tyndale was a brilliant scholar who had a deep love for the scriptures, and he dedicated his life to translating the Bible into English so that everyone could read and understand it for themselves. In the early 16th century, the Bible was only available in Latin, which meant that only scholars and clergy could read it. Tyndale believed that everyone should have access to the Bible, regardless of their social class or education level. He was convinced that if people could read the Bible in their own language, they would be able to have a direct and personal relationship with God, rather than relying on the interpretation of the church. Tyndale's mission was not an easy one. In his day, the church was deeply opposed to the idea of translating the Bible into English. The church believed that only trained theologians could properly interpret the scriptures, and they feared that if the Bible was available in English, people would misinterpret it and fall into heresy. Despite the opposition, Tyndale persisted in his work. He left England and went to Germany, where he could work on his translation in relative safety. There, he completed the New Testament in 1525, and it was printed and smuggled back into England. This was the first time the Bible had been translated into English from the original Greek. However, the authorities in England were not pleased. They saw Tyndale's translation as a threat to their power, and they launched a campaign to find and destroy all copies of the New Testament. Tyndale was forced to flee once again, this time to the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, Tyndale continued his work on the Old Testament, but he was eventually betrayed by a friend and captured by the authorities. He was imprisoned for over a year, during which time he was interrogated and tortured. Despite the pain and suffering, Tyndale refused to renounce his beliefs or his work. He remained steadfast in his conviction that the Bible should be available to everyone, and he continued to work on his translation. In 1536, Tyndale was finally tried for heresy and sentenced to death. He was strangled and then burned at the stake. His final words were a prayer: "Lord, open the King of England's eyes." It is said that within a few years of Tyndale's death, the King of England authorized an English translation of the Bible, which was based largely on Tyndale's work. William Tyndale was a courageous and determined man who dedicated his life to the translation of the Bible into English. His work paved the way for the English Reformation, and his legacy lives on in the countless translations of the Bible that are available today. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more thought-provoking content.